Most people enter confrontations like lambs walking into a slaughterhouse, emotionally reactive, strategically blind, and completely at the mercy of their opponent's agenda. But Machiavelli knew something that separates the rulers from the ruled. True power lies not in aggression, but in unshakable composure. In the next few minutes, I'm going to reveal the 6 Machiavellian principles that will transform you from victim to victor in any confrontation, giving you the psychological armor that even the most ruthless opponents cannot penetrate. In moments of confrontation, when voices rise and emotions ignite like fire, most people lose themselves before the real battle even begins. They react too quickly. They let their emotions drive their words, their gestures, their very energy, and in that instant, they lose control of the situation. Machiavelli understood this weakness in human nature better than anyone. He observed that men are ruled not by reason in moments of tension, but by passion, and whoever learns to control that passion controls the battlefield. When you're provoked, insulted, or challenged, the natural instinct is to fight back, to prove yourself. But Machiavelli would tell you that this is exactly what your enemy wants. They want to drag you into the mud, to make you show your emotions, because once you do, they can read you. They can see your anger, your pride, your fear. You become predictable. And a predictable man can be destroyed with ease. Machiavelli believed that the moment you let anger lead your decisions, you've already surrendered power, because emotion is not strength. It is exposure. To stay unshaken is not to be emotionless. It is to be the master of your emotions while others drown in theirs. When others raise their voices, you lower yours. When they rush to attack, you stand still. That stillness, calculated, deliberate, creates discomfort in them. They can't read you. They can't predict you. You become something they can't manipulate. The one who remains composed gains a strange kind of authority, not by aggression, but by control. Imagine standing in a room where everyone else is losing control. The loudest voice, the most furious gesture, it all fades into noise. But the man who stands calm, unmoved, and silent becomes the center of gravity. People turn to him. Even those who disagree begin to see him as the stronger one, because calmness feels like power. Machiavelli saw this countless times in political courts. When leaders were cornered, the ones who stayed still held the advantage. Because no one could tell what they were thinking, that mystery made them dangerous. Composure, in truth, is not the absence of reaction. It is reaction transformed into strategy. When you appear unbothered, you don't just protect your dignity, you undermine your enemy's confidence. Every second you stay calm, their rage starts to feel foolish. They begin to question their own stance. Their certainty wavers. Their aggression starts to collapse under the weight of your silence. Machiavelli would say this is the highest form of control, to make others doubt themselves without uttering a single word. It's easy to speak when provoked. It's easy to lash out when you're angry. But true power lies in the pause. That small moment where you decide whether to react or to rule. The weak man is owned by his emotions. The powerful man owns them. Machiavelli taught that composure is a weapon disguised as peace. It disarms the enemy because they expect conflict and receive calmness instead. They prepare for war and find stillness. That confusion breaks their rhythm, and when rhythm breaks, control changes hands. So when you are confronted, remember, your goal is not to win the argument. It's to dominate the tone. If you set the emotional temperature of the room, you have already seized command. Machiavelli's wisdom reminds us that control begins internally. Before you rule others, you must rule yourself. The one who can hold still in the face of chaos commands more fear and respect than the one who screams to be heard. Your composure is not a passive defense. It is an active form of dominance. It tells the world that no one can shake you, no matter the provocation. And when people realize that, they begin to adjust their tone around you. They become careful with their words. They hesitate before testing you again. That is how the calm man wins, by forcing the world to orbit his stillness. Every confrontation is more than a clash of words. It's a struggle for control over perception. What Machiavelli understood centuries before modern psychology confirmed it is that power doesn't belong to the person who's right. It belongs to the person who defines the situation. Whoever controls the frame controls the field. In a confrontation, the frame is the invisible rulebook that shapes how everyone perceives what's happening. If you can dictate the meaning of the moment, you win without raising your voice. When someone confronts you, they are not just attacking your words. They are trying to set the emotional tone, to pull you into their reality. If you react within their frame, you've already lost. They'll dictate the pace, the energy, the emotion. Machiavelli would advise you to never enter a confrontation on someone else's terms. Instead, quietly shift the balance. Take control of the frame. This doesn't happen through louder speech or sharper words. It happens through stillness, confidence, and the subtle act of redefining the situation. Machiavelli saw it in royal courts and councils. The man who appeared calm when everyone else was tense naturally became the authority in the room. Why? Because calmness implies certainty, and certainty is what people follow. When a ruler stays collected while others argue, people unconsciously start aligning with him. The confrontation transforms. It's no longer about who's right. It's about who appears to have control. The frame moves in his favor, and even the opponent begins to speak within his rhythm. In every power struggle, there are two realities fighting for dominance, yours and theirs. Your tone, your pace, your body language. These small cues decide which reality takes hold. If they shout and you stay composed, you signal that you are the grounded one. You define the encounter as something beneath you. Their aggression starts to look desperate, and your calmness begins to look powerful. This is not arrogance. This is strategic poise. It's the silent way of saying you may speak louder, but I hold the room. The power of the frame lies in subtle dominance. Machiavelli would say, men judge more by appearances than by reality. So appear in control. Even when inside, you feel the tension. People don't see your thoughts. They see your composure. They see how your presence shapes the air. If you look unmoved, they start believing you are. If you appear certain, they will question their own certainty. In confrontation, confidence is contagious, but so is insecurity. Whichever one you show will spread to everyone watching. Controlling the frame doesn't always mean speaking. It often means redefining what silence means. If someone accuses you and you don't immediately defend yourself, your silence reframes the moment. It turns the spotlight on them. It makes the crowd wonder. Why isn't he reacting? Is he guilty, or is he above it? That single pause changes perception. The accuser, thinking they've cornered you, begins to feel uneasy, because the frame they set of you being the accused has shifted. Now they look like the one seeking validation. That is the art of quiet control. Machiavelli believed that real power operates beneath the surface, unseen. The leader who dictates the atmosphere wins more battles than the one who dictates arguments. If you can make others respond to your energy, you've already captured their attention, and attention is the foundation of control. Whether it's a boardroom, a negotiation, or a personal dispute, the rule is the same: define the meaning of the moment before someone else does. To do this, you must train your presence, slow your movements, control your tone. Every small gesture communicates the level of command you hold. When they rush to make their point, you take your time. When they raise their voice, you lower yours. The slower rhythm pulls them into your tempo, and without realizing it, they begin to follow. You've redefined the field, not by fighting, but by anchoring. Machiavelli would call this the unseen art of ruling through perception. When people start reacting to you instead of you reacting to them, you have seized psychological control. The confrontation becomes your stage. The other person becomes an actor in your play. They think they're challenging you, but they're performing within the frame you've built. That's why Machiavelli never separated politics from theater, because both depend on the ability to shape belief. In truth, the strongest person in any confrontation is not the one who dominates with noise. It's the one who shapes the narrative without appearing to try. The frame is invisible, but its power is absolute. Once you learn to command it, every confrontation, every conversation, bends quietly toward your will. Machiavelli believed that impatience is the weakness that destroys even the most intelligent of men. He saw it time and time again in the courts of Florence. Powerful men losing their composure, their strategy, their very influence, because they could not bear to wait. In every confrontation, the urge to respond quickly, to prove a point, to defend yourself, to regain control, is the trap that exposes you. The man who reacts instantly, Machiavelli said, gives away more than he ever realizes: his emotions, his fears, and his thoughts. But the man who delays his reaction multiplies his power, because silence and stillness make him unreadable, unpredictable, and unshakable. When someone confronts you, they are not merely speaking, they are testing. They are searching for emotional cracks. They want to see if you will bite, if you will break, if they can pull you out of your control. And the moment you answer too quickly, you confirm everything they need to know. But when you wait, when you allow a pause to hang in the air, something strange happens. The energy shifts. The other person begins to question themselves. They wonder if they went too far, if you are planning something, if your silence hides power or danger. Machiavelli understood that silence is not weakness. It is an invisible weapon that unsettles those who crave control. Think about it. Every second you wait before responding is a second where you hold the power. You are not reacting to their emotion, they are reacting to your silence. They start to fill the gap, to explain, to over-speak, to expose themselves further. Machiavelli would call this the art of making your enemy reveal his own strategy. You learn more about a person in their nervous explanations than in their direct attacks. The longer you stay calm and quiet, the more they unravel, and the clearer your next move becomes. The delay is not hesitation, it is calculation. It is the discipline to hold back the fire that wants to burst out. When you pause, when you observe instead of reacting, you start seeing the full picture. You notice their tone, their body language, their emotional triggers. You notice what they are really afraid of. This is what Machiavelli meant when he said that time reveals what conversation conceals. In your silence, the truth exposes itself. The longer you let others speak, the more they show their intentions. Machiavelli also believed that waiting has the power to make your words heavier. When you speak after a pause, every syllable carries weight. People listen, because your silence has created anticipation. It has built presence. The words of a man who waits sound more deliberate, more thoughtful, more authoritative. His voice feels like judgment, not opinion. The loud, reactive man speaks to be heard. The calm, slow one speaks to be obeyed, and Machiavelli knew which one ruled. Delaying your reaction also protects your image. A fast reaction is often emotional. Anger, defensiveness, or sarcasm may feel satisfying in the moment, but they erode your authority. Waiting gives you the power to respond strategically, not emotionally. It allows you to craft an answer that serves your purpose rather than your pride. In confrontation, pride is the chain that makes men dance to another's rhythm. Patience breaks that chain. This control of timing also changes how others perceive you. When people see that you are not easily moved, they begin to treat you differently. They speak more carefully. They hesitate before provoking you again. Your silence trains the world around you. Machiavelli observed that once a prince establishes that he does not act out of impulse, his subjects learn to respect his calmness as power. The same applies in every arena of life, Whether you lead a team, a family, or yourself, the man who waits earns not just respect, but fear. Because unpredictability is intimidating, the delay also creates space for strategic thinking. Every confrontation, every insult, every challenge offers hidden information. In the heat of the moment, you miss it. But if you wait, if you breathe, observe, and let them speak, you see the game behind the game. You see motives. You see alliances. You see weaknesses. The delay is not inaction, it's preparation. It's the art of letting others show their cards while you keep yours close. Machiavelli would remind you that reaction is surrender, but restraint is rule. The man who can wait longer always wins. He turns confrontation into a stage of patience where the other man burns out his energy trying to provoke a response. And when the storm passes, when the opponent exhausts himself, the one who stayed calm still stands, unshaken, undisturbed, and infinitely more powerful than before. Machiavelli understood something that most people never will: the power of concealment. He wrote, "Never reveal all that you think." Because the moment you expose your mind, you give your opponent a map of your strategy. The great mistake people make in confrontation is believing that honesty of emotion equals strength. They believe that showing what they feel, anger, offense, disappointment, makes them appear human or genuine. But in the game of power, it does the opposite. It makes them transparent, predictable, and easy to manipulate. Machiavelli knew that to stay unshaken, you must hide your intentions behind an armor of calmness. When you appear calm, the world assumes you are at peace. But Machiavelli would say that true calmness is rarely peace. It is disguise. It is the art of hiding chaos behind control. Every ruler, every strategist, every survivor of political warfare mastered this. When enemies attacked, they did not react. When plans failed, they did not reveal panic. When betrayal struck, they smiled. Not because they were unfeeling, but because showing emotion would reveal too much of the game. Calmness is not passivity, it's protection. In every confrontation, people watch not your words first, but your face. Your expression becomes their compass. A flash of irritation, a sigh, a tightening jaw. These are leaks of power. Machiavelli understood that the eyes of others are always studying you, measuring your reactions to know how much strength they can exert. But when your face remains unreadable, when your tone doesn't change, you take away their power to calculate. They cannot tell if you're hurt, if you're plotting, or if you simply don't care. That uncertainty traps them. The calm man becomes the mystery they cannot solve. Machiavelli often wrote that fear of the unknown is more powerful than any sword. When you hide your intentions, you create that fear. Your stillness becomes unnerving. People begin to ask themselves, what is he thinking? What is he planning? They replay their words, wondering if they've said too much. They question their own confidence. That doubt is a slow, invisible poison. You haven't moved an inch, but you've already shifted the balance of control. Even when you are angry, you must train your face to betray nothing. Because the moment you display frustration, you confirm to the other person that they've reached you, that their words found a target. Machiavelli would advise, let them believe you are unmovable, even when inside you burn. For the man who appears calm while others rage creates the illusion of strength greater than any act of aggression. Calmness becomes a wall they can't climb. They will try to provoke, to get a reaction, to make you reveal your thoughts. But every failed attempt makes them weaker, more desperate, more uncertain. In Machiavelli's world, even kindness could be a mask. He advised princes to appear merciful, loyal, and moral, but to use those appearances as tools. Because what people believe about you is often more important than what is true. When you master calmness, you can choose which image to project. You can be the composed friend, the patient leader, the silent observer, each one serving a purpose. But the true self, the strategist within, must remain hidden. The fewer people understand your motives, the fewer can oppose them. This concealment doesn't mean you become deceitful in every moment. It means you become selective. You control what others see. You choose when to show emotion and when to suppress it. Machiavelli would call this the mask of virtue, a public calmness that hides private calculation. To the outside world, you seem balanced, fair, and predictable. But beneath that calmness, every thought is measured, every word chosen, every pause intentional. The beauty of this mask is that it creates both safety and leverage. Safety, because no one can use your emotions against you. Leverage, because you can use the illusion of calmness to set traps without detection. When others believe you are passive, they lower their guard. When they think you are harmless, they speak freely. And while they reveal their thoughts, you remain the observer, gathering information in silence. Machiavelli would say this is how a wise man wins battles without ever drawing a sword, through perception, not confrontation. To hide your intentions behind calmness is not to live dishonestly, it's to live intelligently. It's to understand that people fear what they cannot read, and fear, once planted, is the root of control. When they look at you and see a face that gives away nothing, a presence that reacts to nothing, they begin to sense that you are different. You are not ruled by emotion like they are. You are governed by purpose. And purpose wrapped in calmness is the most formidable armor any man can wear. In confrontation, most people make the same fatal mistake. They defend themselves. They explain. They justify. They try to prove their innocence or their good intentions. But Machiavelli would tell you that the moment you start defending, you've already lowered yourself. Because defense, no matter how eloquent, admits that the other person has the power to accuse. And when you answer them directly, you've accepted their frame, you've agreed to play their game. Machiavelli's wisdom was simple yet ruthless: never defend, always redirect. When someone attacks your character, questions your ability, or mocks your authority, they are not seeking truth. They are seeking dominance. They want to shift the power of the moment in their favor. And if you rush to defend, you give them that victory without realizing it. Machiavelli would say, let them attack, let them speak. Their aggression is an emotional investment. Yours should be strategy. Instead of reacting, observe the tone, the rhythm, the motive behind their words. Then, instead of explaining yourself, calmly shift the focus back to them. You don't answer their accusation. You redefine the conversation. Imagine this. Someone says, "You don't know what you're doing." The ordinary man argues back, "Yes, I do, and here's why." He's now dancing to the other person's tune. But the Machiavellian mind replies differently. He might say, "Interesting. What makes you think that?" Instantly, the frame shifts. The accuser is now explaining themselves. The power has quietly changed hands. Machiavelli's principle is timeless. Whoever asks the questions leads the room. Defense makes you a follower. Redirection makes you the invisible commander. Defending yourself feeds the other person's ego. Redirecting forces them to confront their own assumptions. You take their energy and bend it. When someone insults you, stay calm and curious. Let their words hang in the air like smoke while you remain still. The more they try to provoke, the more they reveal their own weakness. People who are in control do not need to justify themselves. The powerful man doesn't prove his worth. He lets others expose their insecurity by trying to challenge it. Machiavelli observed that in politics, perception is everything. It doesn't matter who is right, it matters who appears composed and in command. When you defend, you look flustered, emotional, reactive. When you redirect, you look analytical, detached, and in control. The calm man wins not because he speaks louder, but because he defines what the conversation means. When you master redirection, you turn confrontation into a mirror that reflects the other person's motives, not your own emotions. Even silence can be a form of redirection. When someone accuses you and you respond only with a steady look, it unsettles them. Your lack of defense becomes a question that they can't answer. They start to wonder, does he think I'm wrong? Or does he not care at all? That uncertainty grows in their mind, eroding their confidence. Machiavelli would remind you that people fear what they cannot read, and silence is the most unreadable language of all. There's another layer to this strategy. When you never defend yourself, you force others to defend their perception of you. They must decide whether their assumptions are true or not. Some will grow confused, others insecure. Either way, the burden of explanation shifts away from you. In that moment, your stillness feels like strength, and their attack starts to look desperate. You have quietly flipped the script, without arguing, without emotion, without effort. The art of redirection is not about manipulation. It's about maintaining dominance over your own frame. You control where the attention flows. You decide which questions matter. You lead by appearing uninterested in winning small arguments because you're playing a larger game, the game of perception. Machiavelli often advised princes to never respond directly to criticism because responding acknowledges equality. A ruler does not argue with subjects. He simply redefines the subject itself. To practice this, you must learn to detach your ego from the need to be understood. The moment you stop trying to make others see your truth, you start to gain real freedom. You no longer seek validation. You command it. And when people sense that their words can't move you, that their accusations can't shake your calm, they begin to tread carefully. They start to speak with respect, even fear, because you've shown them that emotional attacks have no power over you. Machiavelli's lesson here is as psychological as it is strategic. Never allow confrontation to pull you downward into noise. Use the opponent's energy to elevate yourself above it. Do not fight on their terms, make them play on yours. When they expect defense, give them silence. When they expect reaction, give them reflection. When they expect explanation, give them redirection. Because the one who refuses to defend has already proven that he does not need to, and that realization is the quietest, most powerful victory of all. There is one final lesson Machiavelli left for those who wish to remain unshaken in confrontation: the art of retaliation without emotion. He understood that the world is ruled not by those who feel deeply, but by those who control how deeply they appear to feel. And when you're confronted, insulted, or tested, the biggest mistake you can make is to strike back in anger. Because the moment you do, you're no longer in control. You're being controlled. You're reacting, not deciding. You're playing their game, not your own. When someone confronts you, they often seek one thing: a reaction. They want to break your calm, to expose your emotions, to make you slip from reason into impulse. That's the battlefield they're trained for, emotional chaos. But Machiavelli's wisdom lies in staying cold when others burn. He wrote that a prince should never allow his passions to dictate his judgment, because passion clouds strategy. And in confrontation, strategy is everything. The one who stays calm is the one who controls the tempo. The one who controls the tempo controls the outcome. Imagine this: you're standing before someone who tries to humiliate you. They raise their voice, their eyes filled with fire, expecting you to respond in kind. But instead, you remain still, calm, composed, watching them as if you were studying a weak animal revealing its nature. That silence, that restraint, terrifies them, because they realize they cannot shake you. They cannot pull you into their world of rage. They are fighting alone. That is power, invisible, silent, devastating. Machiavelli believed that true power is in perception, not noise. When you retaliate with anger, you feed your enemy's ego. You confirm that they have influence over you. But when you retaliate with silence, precision, or calculated indifference, you destroy their confidence. You make them question their worth. Your composure becomes a weapon sharper than any insult. And when you do choose to act, it must be deliberate, precise, and effective, not to prove emotion, but to demonstrate control. He taught that vengeance, if ever delivered, must never be emotional. It must be timed like a chess move, after calculation, not reaction, because the man who reacts in emotion loses his throne, while the man who responds in cold reason builds an empire. Retaliation is not about explosion, it's about erosion. You dismantle your opponent's strength quietly, piece by piece, until they are left powerless, wondering how they lost without even realizing it. In every confrontation, there are two levels of battle: the visible one, where words clash and emotions rise, and the invisible one, where discipline and patience decide who truly wins. The untrained mind fights in the open. The Machiavellian mind fights in silence. To master this art, you must learn to separate your emotions from your intellect. When someone strikes you verbally, let it hit your armor, not your skin. When they provoke you, see it as a test, not an attack. Each confrontation is a stage, and you, if wise, must act your part without ever revealing what's behind the mask. The greatest act of power is to remain calm when the world expects your fury, to look unbothered while they burn in frustration, to smile slightly, not out of arrogance, but out of awareness. The awareness that you have already won by not reacting. Machiavelli would say that the man who governs himself cannot be governed by anyone else. And that is the essence of staying unshaken. To govern your inner state so fiercely that no external storm can move you. So when you face confrontation, remember this: your real battle is not with the other person, it is with your own instincts. Master them, and you will master every opponent you face. Because in the end, as Machiavelli wrote, power belongs to those who appear untouched by the chaos around them. The cold mind commands where the heated heart collapses, and that is how the unshaken rise. Not through reaction, but through perfect, disciplined control. Conclusion: the unshaken mind. Machiavelli's final lesson. In the end, Machiavelli's lesson on staying unshaken in any confrontation is not merely about defense. It's about dominance through mastery of the self. Every battle, every insult, every storm that seeks to move you is not a threat, but a mirror showing how firmly you stand. The weak allow the world to dictate their state. The powerful dictate their state to the world. He taught that control begins within. The calm man commands attention, the silent man commands respect, and the unreactive man commands fear. To remain composed when provoked is to reveal that your strength does not depend on circumstance. It flows from discipline, intelligence, and cold understanding of human nature. That is the Machiavellian art of power: to win without noise, to strike without emotion, and to rise without permission. So the next time someone confronts you, remember, it is not your voice that must be louder, but your mind that must be stronger. Let them burn with emotion while you remain still. Let them expose their weakness while you guard your power, because the one who cannot be shaken cannot be defeated.